Question 7. You're moving into your new apartment in Australia. You go into the kitchen and discover not 1, not 2, but 3 classic Aussie spiders. One of these 3 is life-threatening if it bit you. I made you a quiz that tells you objectively how Australian you are. You know how the Australian government has their own quiz that they thrust upon folks who are applying for citizenship? My quiz should replace that quiz, because their quiz is completely pointless. Let me show you real quick. In Australia, we believe in mutual respect and tolerance. This means you can physically fight someone when you disagree with them. What is Australia's capital city? Who gaff? Who gaff? Quiz that I've made here for you is practical, real life scenarios that test if you will be able to survive and thrive on this land. Maybe you're thinking of moving to the land down under, or maybe you've just recently moved there. So to the Aussies watching, why are you here, bro? I guess you could stay and take the quiz, but if you don't get 100%, you will be extradited to New Zealand, North Island. Before we begin, it's very important that we are all on the same page about how the quiz works. So it's 10 questions. They start off simple and get more and more complex. At each question, I'll also tell you how many points you've received. All you gotta do is keep track. And at the end, I'll tell you how Australian you are based on your total points. In general though, it'll be 2 points for every right answer, 0 points for wrong answers, and sometimes, depending on the question, you might get 1 point if you chose an answer that's almost correct. You know, you almost got there and it's understandable, just miscalculated. Alrighty. Question 1. You're hosting an Aussie summer barbecue. What are you grilling for your guests? A. Shrimps. B. Ribs. C. Sausages. The correct answer here is C, sausages. I don't know where or how or why the phrase shrimp on the barbie came about, but I have attended literally 0 Aussie barbecues where they were grilling shrimp. Same with ribs. I think barbecuing ribs is more of an American thing. Sausages though, absolute classic. So if you chose sausages, you get 2 points. If you chose A or B, you get 0. Question 2. Okay, so we've decided on sausages for the barbecue. Now, what is the correct way to serve them to your guests? Option A here, the sausage is grilled and it's on a piece of white bread and you've got some caramelized onions on top with some sauce. Option B, very, very similar, except the onions are on the bottom of the sausage. Option C is an epic battered pork hot dog with pickles, some smoky aioli with some gluten-free bun options. And then for option D, we're keeping it quite simple with a classic hot dog. The correct answer here is option B, with the sausages on top of the caramelized onions. So if you picked that, you get 2 points. If you picked option C, you're basically trying way too hard. Aussies just love the simple things in life. We love a sausage wrapped in shitty sliced white bread. The cheaper, the better. Option D is also a 0. And if you picked option A, I give you 1 point. If you picked option A and you're pissed off, fair enough. As for why the custom is to put the onions on the bottom of the sausages, it's a tradition thing. I think it's because if you put the onions at the bottom of the sausage, it actually makes it easier for you as the person assembling the sausage and also for the person eating the sausage at the end. It's not as pretty as the onions going on top, but it's more practical. Question number 3. It's your first ever Australian winter. You're surprised at how cold and miserable it is, not least because of the low building standards and the poorly insulated homes that are all built for heat and not cold. You'll learn very quickly that in wintertime, your home is basically gonna feel like a cardboard box. I digress. Which of the following is an Aussie winter attire staple? So option A is a hoodie, option B is a turtleneck, and option C is a trench coat. The correct answer is A, hoodie. So if you picked that, you get 2 points. If you picked option B or C, you get 0. No matter how cold and windy and miserable it gets in Australia, the winter uniform is the hoodie and shorts and thongs combo. Yes, we call flip-flops thongs. Question 4. You've been invited to a potluck. What dish are you bringing that will impress people the most? Option A is fairy bread, which is basically sliced white bread with some butter and some sprinkles on top. Option B is butter chicken. Option C is the grilled sausage on the caramelized onion on the white bread combo that we spoke about earlier. If you picked option A, fairy bread, you would be correct. So 2 points to you. Now, if you picked option B, butter chicken, I will give you 1 point. I don't know a single Aussie who will not enjoy a cheeky butter chicken. The reason why it's 1 point and not 2 points though is because the people in the party, they will like your butter chicken, but they won't be
gobsmacked
like they would if you rocked up with the fairy bread, because with the fairy bread, you get the extra nostalgia factor. You have to understand that fairy bread is something that each and every one of them grew up eating. They loved it as a kid, but then now they're told that as an adult, they have to eat adult food. The thing is, they all secretly yearn for fairy bread. So if you as an adult rock up with fairy bread, I guarantee you will be the favorite person at this party because no one is expecting it. I cannot describe to you how much Aussies love fairy bread. If they could, they would make it their like official national dish, but instead it has to be something respectable, which is why I think it's actually roast lamb officially. If you picked option C, the snag, you get 0 points, I'm sorry. And I know you may be confused and furious because this was the right option before. The thing is, the snag, it only works if it's made fresh. If you have a barbecue and you're sort of actively making snags for people, absolute hit. But no one rocks up to a potluck with pre-made snags. They're like room temperature. It's just not the vibe. Nobody asked for this. Question 5. You're walking to your friend's house for a Triple J Hottest 100 listening party. What do you call the thing that you're walking on? I drew a little arrow here pointing to what I'm referring to. Question's asking, what do you call this thing? Option A, sidewalk. Option B is footpath. Option C is pavement. If you picked option B, footpath, you get 2 points. Congratulations. If you pick option A and C, you get 0 points. Option C is more English, I believe. And option A, I think, is more American. Pavement versus sidewalk. You're apartment hunting with your Aussie friend and she turns to you and says, this flat's a bit cooked, but the rent's cheap. You agree with her. What do you say to her to agree with her? Option A is yeah, nah. Option B is nah, yeah. If you picked option B, nah, yeah, you are correct. You get 2 points. And if you picked option A, you get 0 points. The whole yeah, nah, yeah thing is just Aussie vernacular. The easiest way to remember is that the final word carries the meaning. So in this situation, you want to agree with your friend and say yes. And so that is why option B, nah, yeah, is the correct answer because the final word carries the meaning. Question 7. You and your friend decide to take that apartment. It's move-in day. You go into the kitchen and discover not one, not 2, but 3 classic Australian spiders. Option A is a white-tailed spider. Option B is a Sydney funnel web spider. And option C is a huntsman. These are 3 pretty common spiders that you will find in Australian houses. One of them is an actual danger to you as a human. Like their bite is life-threatening. The other 2, not so much. You gotta decide now which one to deal with first. Which one do you think is an actual danger or threat to you as a human? If you picked option B, the Sydney funnel web spider, you are correct. 2 points to you. If you get bitten by a Sydney funnel web, seek immediate medical attention. I'm being so serious right now. What's worse is that they are aggressive too. Like they would rather fight you head on than flee. If you picked option A, the white-tailed spider, I'll give you 1 point for that because their bite won't kill you like a Sydney funnel web, but it will be excruciating. Option C, on the other hand, is the huntsman. If you picked that, you get 0 points. Appearance-wise, the huntsman is absolutely cooked. They're massive, they're hairy, but behavior-wise, they're little wusses. On the rare chance they do bite you, it's basically a nothing burger. It's but a minor inconvenience. In fact, you kind of want these terrifying creatures in your house because they eat cockroaches and flies. Just treat them like a little pet. You'll be alright. Question 8. Let Becky read this. Oh yes, this is kind of a long question. I couldn't be asked typing it all out, so I'm gonna read it to you like a little story time. I did warn you, the questions are gonna get more complex, so okay, here goes. You successfully deal with the spider situation from the previous question. Now you are settling in for your first night in your new apartment. It's walking distance to bus and train stations. It's on a quiet street. Apartment's small, but it's got quite a bit of storage available. All things considered, it's a pretty good find, and you're really satisfied with this apartment. But on your first night, you are rudely awakened from your slumber by something crashing onto the metal roof of your bedroom balcony. At first you think maybe it's like a big broken branch, but then you hear it move. No big deal. Maybe just a giant rat. You figure it's wisest to go outside and have an inspection. iPhone torch in hand, you venture outside to have a suss. You quickly discover that it's not a rat, but an Australian brushtail possum. It's big, it's huge. You have no idea what size range is normal because you're new to Australia, but God, this guy is one fat doesn't even seem to be fazed by you. You're both sort of frozen, staring at each other for a few seconds before it meanders off into the night. You think to yourself, that was a little bit of a nuisance, but no harm done, and these guys are kind of cute, not gonna lie. So you go back to bed, feeling a little thrilled by your first encounter with the native Australian marsupials, but this cheerful feeling does not last long. Because unfortunately, this happens every single night. Every single night, you go to bed and at around 3 a.m, this fat fuck dive bombs onto the metal roof of your bedroom balcony and proceeds to scurry around loudly for the next couple of hours, not to mention pooping and pissing everywhere along the balcony. Unsurprisingly, your sleep quality is abysmal. You're basically a first-time mum with a newborn at this point. You're broken. You're a shell. So you decide to take matters into your own hands. Which of the following is the correct method for dealing with said possum? Option A, you go to Bunnings hardware store, buy some motion activated lights and sprinklers, install them on the roof. Every time the possum dive bombs onto the roof, the lights and sprinklers will activate. Eventually, possum learns that your roof is annoying and will migrate to your neighbor's roof. Option B, you go to Chemist Warehouse, buy some Vicks Vapor Rub or any mentholy ointment. Apply said ointment on the roof and also on the balcony, or any surfaces, basically. That smell deters the possum, and once again, it will learn over time that your roof is annoying and it will migrate to neighbor's roof. Option C, you set up a trap, you trap the possum, and you relocate the possum to a nice forest nearby. If you picked option A, go to Bunnings hardware store and get some motion activated lights and sprinklers, you are correct. Congratulations, you get 2 points. If you picked option B, you get 1 point. Look, this can work, but what you will find is that the smell fades far too quickly, and so you're gonna have to constantly reapply. It's a very, very tedious solution. It's a bit of a shitty hand to play against the possum. Option C, you get 0 points. It's actually illegal to do this in Australia because these animals are protected. Even though you're not killing the possum and not directly harming the possum, it is indirectly harming them for a bunch of reasons. So yeah, you get 0 points. Question 9, translate this. Called himself a sick for chucking a sickie and fanging it home, but I reckon Gronk just didn't want to deal with the mozzies. Now, the way that I would translate this sentence is, he sees calling in sick and driving fast home as impressive behavior, but the speaker believes he was nothing more than a fool trying to avoid the mosquitoes. Give yourself 2 points if you translated this perfectly, 0 points if you were nowhere close. Now, I'm feeling generous, so I will allow you to give yourself 1 point, only if there are 5 Aussie slangs here, I think.
A fucking sick cunt, fucking a sickie, fanging it home, Gronk, and mozzies.
You're allowed to give yourself 1 point, only if you get just one of these 5 wrong. If you translated 2 or more of these 5 wrong, you get 0 points. Question 10. So you somehow score yourself a super hot Australian boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever. It's early stages, but their birthday's coming up and you want to impress them. So you decide to book a trip to Bali because you heard that Australians are obsessed with Bali, and you'd be right. You booked the flights and now you gotta plan that Bali trip. Which of the following is the most elite Bali itinerary that will please the average Aussie? Remember, your relationship is in its early stages, i.e. you don't know your partner's personality very deeply, so your plan must be foolproof enough to satisfy the average Australian. Option A, book accommodation in a quiet retreat area. You're doing yoga classes, meditation, it's alcohol free, think early mornings, reset vibes. Option B, you book accommodation in a boutique eco villa just outside Ubud. You have daily planned activities so that we don't waste time faffing around. These activities look like waterfalls, temples, rice terraces, cozy cafes, and maybe one beach day if there's time. Option C, you book accommodation in a hostel in Kuta. This accommodation is pretty mid, but it's close to loads of bars. This itinerary is very nightlife focused, so lots of partying, chaos, scooters. What happens in Bali stays in Bali sort of vibe. Option D is to stay in Seminyak or Canggu with optional Uber day trip to see the waterfalls and rice terraces. Your accommodation is a private villa with a pool. As for your itinerary itself, it's very fluid, plenty of downtime, nothing locked in, maybe 1 or 2 beach clubs and some massages and smoothie bowls. If you picked option D, you would be correct. Congratulations, you get 2 points. Why this wins? You gotta understand that your partner has probably been to Bali already once. This itinerary will feel familiar to them, but still feels special because of the private villa, for example, and the beach clubs. This itinerary has a nice balance of indulgence, rest, and some light sightseeing. Fluid itinerary leaves room for spontaneity. If you picked option A, you get 0 points, unfortunately. The reason this fails is because it's too values driven for early dating. Typically, Australians go to Bali not for a transformative experience, but just to have fun. This itinerary comes from a good place, has good intentions, it's just the wrong audience. If you picked option B, I will give you 1 point. This is where most people fail. It's the deceptively tempting wrong answer, because it sounds thoughtful and impressive on paper, but if you actually do it, it's extremely high effort and schedule heavy. It does show that you care a lot and that you put in a lot of time and effort to plan this perfectly curated itinerary. Chances are your partner will still appreciate the thought that went into planning this. It's not easy to plan a trip like this. So now if you picked option C though, you get 0 points. The reason this fails is because you're probably projecting a stereotype idea of the Aussie Bali. Like I mentioned before, because your partner is Aussie, chances are they have already been to Bali. This is not their first rodeo. Most likely they're gonna want something a little bit different, a little bit richer, given that this isn't their first time. Now it's time to tally up your scores. If you got between 15 to 20, congratulations, you are Australian. Immediate citizenship granted. You understand the unspoken rules. You may now complain about Australia. If you got between 12 and 14 points, I'll call this tier permanent residency approved. You are quite Australian, just with the occasional misread. If you got between 9 and 11 points, calling this tier temporary visa extended. You're clearly not Australian. You're also clearly trying, but way more practice is required. And if you got between 0 and 8 points, I'm calling this category application denied. You are as un-Australian as one can be. And this decision is final. It's been lovely having you here. If there's anything in this quiz that you disagree with, think that I got wrong, please let me know in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed the quiz. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a part 2 or just more quizzes in general. And if you liked me, subscribe so that we can see more of each other. I'll see you very soon.